Sonic the Hedgehog, a game series I know very well. In fact, if it weren't for Sonic, I wouldn't be where I am today. Ever since I really got into Sonic a few years ago, the Blue Blur has been a really big part of my life. I find myself constantly playing his games and interacting with his fanbase, purchasing tons of his media, and even making my own fan characters. But there is a question that I've asked myself many times in the past, and that's why? Why do I like Sonic? This guy's had a pretty rough life. Good games, bad games. With the release of the Sonic Boom franchise not long ago, you'd think it would be pretty hard to be a Sonic fan in these times. But despite all the hardships that come with being a Sonic fan, I still managed to stick with him. But why? Well, let's start from the beginning. We begin back in Christmas of 2008. I was 8 years old and I had just gotten my Nintendo Wii. I hadn't had any video game consoles before that other than PC. The only memories I have of video games from before then are a few educational games, some other PT games like Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, or playing Super Mario Sunshine at a hair salon. Naturally, now that I had a console, I needed games for it. And while we did buy some, such as Mario Kart, most of the time we would go to our local game store and rent them. Among the many games that we rented was Sonic Heroes for the GameCube. Of course, being young as I was, I didn't make it very far in the game. I did manage to make it up to Metropolis City, but I didn't get anywhere past that. But I still remember it as one of my first experiences with Sonic. There's no way I'd forget Crush 40's Sonic Heroes, as well as Seaside Hill and Ocean Palace. But Sonic Heroes, believe it or not, was not what got me into Sonic. I would later go on to rent games like Sonic Unleashed Wii, Sonic Colors, and even Sonic Classic Collection on the DS, which was one of my first experiences with the classics. I specifically remember getting up the Chemical Plant on Sonic 2, and getting lost in Mushroom Hill Zone of Sonic and Knuckles. But I didn't become what you'd call a Sonic fan until around 2013, when I played Generations for the first time. Sonic Generations, it just blew me away. It was so much fun. It was so fast, it was like nothing I'd ever played before. Sonic Generations was in fact the first time I had ever seen some of these very classic levels, like for example City Escape I had never seen before. So I experienced City Escape in Generations before Adventure 2, as a matter of fact. And from there I would go on to watch Sonic X and all the other Sonic cartoons, read all the Sonic comics, catching up from the very beginning, and buying all the other Sonic games, or at least many of them. Before I was a big Sonic fan, I was a big Mario fan. But once I played Sonic Generations for the first time, and started buying all of Sonic's other games and playing them, it all changed. Sonic was something different. It's all about speed, while still being a good platforming game. Or it could be more based on platforming, or just more based on boosting through everything. It really just depends on which Sonic game you're playing. And then we've got Sonic himself. Not much to say about the character other than he's a really cool guy. Then you've also got all his friends and enemies, all the locations he visits. There's lots of fun to be had with the Sonic series. Now, fast forward to October 2013. Sonic Lost World would be the first Sonic game I ever bought on launch, and I really enjoyed it, despite what some people may say. But that was when I realized I had truly become a Sonic fan. It had become even more evident with games like Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric and Sonic Boom Shattered Crystal. I had seen the reviews, and I had seen negative feedback for the most part from fans and critics alike, yet I still bought both of those games on launch. I've even went as far as seeking out and buying Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, don't worry, not full price, in order to play it for myself, as well as buying my own Sega Genesis to play Sonic's 16-bit ventures from the 90s. Lastly, I've even put over $300 into this statue from First Four Figures. Now that's dedication. To this day, there's still Sonic games that I have yet to play, but for now we can talk about the ones that I have played. Now, as I mentioned before, Sonic Classic Collection on the Nintendo DS would be my first experience with Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles, but I did go on to buy them on Xbox Live Arcade and many other consoles that they were ported to in the future. Now, I never spent that much time with Sonic 1, just mainly because of how annoying Labyrinth Zone was. I did end up beating it in a recent live stream, but until then, there was nothing like really pushing me to go back to Sonic 1. Sonic 2, however, is a completely different story. I love that game. While I do find Sonic 1 being quite enjoyable, since it is especially the first Sonic game that started it all, Sonic 2 was something that I wanted to keep playing. I spent a lot of time throughout 2013 and 2014 playing the Xbox Live Arcade version, trying to beat it. Same with Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which ended up becoming my favorite 2D Sonic game. The classics may not be the easiest games in the world, but they are definitely fun, and I couldn't imagine Sonic without them. One game that I had never experienced before until the opportunity arose to buy it on Xbox Live was Sonic CD. But when I did buy that game, oh, I still love that opening to this day. Being one of the first games to include vocal Sonic music, it became one of my favorite Sonic soundtracks along with the likes of Sonic Adventure. The first time I played Sonic Adventure, as you may imagine, was a whole ton of fun. Same with Sonic Adventure 2, a game that really got me to love Sonic music, as well as strengthening my love for Sonic even more. Now, I haven't really had a legit way to play Sonic Heroes in recent times, with like it not being on Steam or anything like that, but what I have played of Sonic Heroes in recent times, I did really like. It brought back memories of especially Seaside Hill and all that. It's just great, man. As for Sonic 06 and Unleashed, I never got around to those games until last year. Now, I'm not the kind of Sonic fan who goes around defending every Sonic game like they're godlike. Sonic 06 was garbage, and I am aware that there are a few people out there who actually do like that game, but you gotta admit, that game is far from finished. Same with Sonic and the Secret Rings. I never even bothered buying that game, it's just not worth it. But Sonic Unleashed, oh Sonic Unleashed. It did take a while to get used to the homing attack being mapped to a different button, but once I got everything sorted out, Unleashed easily became one of my favorite 3D Sonic games. While not as impactful as Sonic Generations was in my case, it's still pretty high up there. And I have to say, Sonic Unleashed is the closest we've gotten to a perfect 3D Sonic game. I mean, the game looks so polished, and the level design is great as well. I mean, some people may argue that it's boost to win and they don't really like that much, but I honestly don't have a problem with it. And I know, the night stages exist as well, but they're not even that bad either. They're a pretty decent beat 'em up, to be honest. But the thing that made me like Unleashed was the daytime stages, because Sonic is supposed to be fast. This game is like Sonic Rush, but in 3D, which is awesome. And while we're on the topic of Sonic Rush, I never had much experience with the handheld games, aside from Sonic Classic Collection as I mentioned before, until more recent times as well. But after playing some of the Advanced Trilogy as well as the Rush games, I can say that they were usually consistently good, which is a good thing for Sonic because a lot of his ups and downs were in his console games. Now the next game I'd like to talk about is Sonic and the Black Knight, which happens to be my favorite Sonic game on the Wii. I mean, sure, the motion controls were there, but they didn't get in the way too often. They were not nearly as bad as Secret Rings. Black Knight was also the last title to feature the voice of Jason Griffith as Sonic, and while I do prefer Ryan Drummond, Griffith was at his best at this point. He had come a long way since 4Kids, and I'm glad he ended his Sonic career how he did. Sonic and the Black Knight was also one of the last games, at least as of recent times, to feature a really nice story, as well as have new music from Crush 40, not counting Sonic Youth. And with that, we move on to Sonic Colors, one of the games I rented as a kid. So back around 2010 or 2011, there was a time where I would just go to the Wii Shop channel and browse games, looking at trailers and stuff like that, and one of the games I saw was Sonic Colors. It looked fun, so I eventually ended up renting it, and I was not disappointed. One of my fondest memories of the game was playing Gameland, which is the multiplayer mode, with my brother. I don't remember much else from when I played it back then, but I have picked it up in more recent times. Sonic Colors was the first game in a while from Sonic to actually get pretty good reviews, and for good reason. The game did take Sonic in a new direction that some people aren't necessarily fond of, but if you're looking for a fun Sonic game on the Wii, I definitely recommend Sonic Colors. I've also had some experience with Colors on the DS since my brother used to own it, but not much. That game's alright. And finally, back to Sonic Generations, the game that made me a Sonic fan. When I first saw Green Hill Zone in the game, I was like, hey, that's the stage from Super Smash Bros. Brawl, because that's where I knew it best from. I also did recognize Chemical Plant, I just couldn't pinpoint which game it was from. As for Sky Sanctuary and Speed Highway, I didn't know anything about those stages. City Escape, I was like, oh hey, cool, you get to ride a skateboard. But that was pretty much my first impression of the whole stage. Seaside Hill I definitely remembered, and I knew it was from Sonic Heroes. Crisis City I sort of knew as well since I had watched the cutscenes of Sonic 06 online at one point. And funny story about Rooftop Run, when I saw the title of the stage I was like, Oh no, I hated this stage because I remembered it from Sonic Unleashed Wii as the nighttime stage. So I was like not looking forward to it until I finally played it. That changed my opinion of the stage completely. Planet Wisp I knew was from Sonic Colors because of the name Planet Wisp. But enough about the stages. Sonic Generations is a great celebration of Sonic's history and my favorite 3D Sonic game. I've put over 100 hours into this game on Steam, half because of how moddable it is, but half because of how fun this game is. Not much else I can say. Sonic Generations kicks ass. And finally, we have Sonic Lost World, which, as I mentioned before, I had a fun time with. And just to clarify, I'm talking about the Wii U version. The 3DS version is shit. Sonic Team once again tried something new with Sonic Lost World, and in many ways it worked. Of course, the game still has its problems, but putting those problems aside, Sonic Lost World is a pretty solid game. Now, I won't dwell on Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric too much. The game is just boring and broken, while Shattered Crystal is so-so. Let's just leave it at that. As for games that I haven't talked about, well, it's probably because I haven't played much of them. I've spent very little time playing games like Shadow the Hedgehog and Sonic R, and some games like Sonic Rush Adventure I haven't even played at all yet. I still have yet to look at the Riders series as well. I do own Free Riders, but Free Riders is Free Riders. Any other games I missed? Well, maybe I'll get to them another day. Then there's the TV shows. The only one I didn't really watch too much of was The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. The other ones, like Sonic Saturday Morning, Sonic Underground, and even Sonic X, I watched the hell out of. Especially that last one. Back in 2012, before I played Sonic Generations, I watched Sonic X in its entirety, and while it didn't make me a Sonic fan, I really enjoyed it still. Then there's the comics, which weren't that good at one point, but then they picked up again, and I really like the comics now, and I still follow them, getting a new issue every month. So those are the games that got me to like Sonic, but what if I told you that was only half of it? The other half comes with the fan base. Now you may be thinking, what are you saying? The fan base is horrible! And in a way, you're not wrong, but it's the good side of the fan base that got me to really love the Sonic community. You've got amazing artists creating amazing Sonic fan art, you've got the social media of Sonic, harvesting memes, and you've also got the plain old Sonic fans. I've made a lot of friends through the Sonic community, and I've also contributed to it quite a lot. So there's no way I could say the fan base didn't have a part in making me the Sonic fan I am today. And as I sort of touched on at the beginning of this video, if it weren't for Sonic, I wouldn't have this YouTube channel being as successful as it is right now. Sonic has changed my life in many ways, and because of that, it is my favorite video game series. It even wouldn't be a stretch to say Sonic is my favorite series in general, only second to the likes of One Piece. But it's also worth mentioning that my favorite game is actually Freedom Planet, but even still, Freedom Planet took a lot of inspiration from Sonic and started out as a Sonic fan game, so that's saying something. It's just crazy to think that if I had never picked up Sonic Heroes, or maybe if I had never picked up Sonic Generations, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have experienced all the stuff I experienced. I've learned so much about the Sonic franchise, looking up stuff on wikis and stuff like that, finishing games just for the sake of finishing them, and taking part in the Sonic community on social media like Facebook, Twitter, and DeviantArt. So if you're still asking why I like Sonic exactly, well, Sonic changed me. Sonic made me who I am today, and no matter how bad or good the games may get, I will still follow him to the ends of the earth. Sonic Boom Fire and Ice, definitely will be picking it up. The 25th anniversary Sonic game, you bet your ass I'm picking that up. Mario and Sonic at Rio 2016? Maybe not, but that game's not very important anyways. But that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed my opinion/retrospective video of the Sonic series. Now, this video was obviously inspired by Clement's video of the same name, so I do recommend you go check it out. And just like in his video, if you'd like to share your opinions of the Sonic series, or just anything about Sonic in general, go right ahead in the comments section, I'll definitely reply. And if you liked this video, I'd greatly appreciate it if you subscribed. I started making this video in 2015, and now several months later, it's finally complete. And what better time to release it than Sonic's 25th anniversary? Whatever the anniversary game may be, I'll be sure to be playing it right when it comes out, and I'll probably enjoy it. Thanks for watching everyone, this has been Sonic Otaku SNG, signing off.